you do have to pay your tax, the assessed value, whether you agree with it or not, or you'll pay the 18% penalty and you end up in the newspaper. So that's how it is. And if you win or whatever, you get a prorated penalty back. That's right.
And they don't publish in the newspaper.
Then you're pretty won.
You won, here's your
So
bill.
that's what I'm saying. It's all, that's the
Good for you.
system. That's how you have to do it. But that's all the more reason why it needs to be done in 6 months or so. So, I mean, look, if you know you got to pay, look, there's no way I agree with this, but I'm going to have to fork it out for one
Maybe we can add. Maybe we can add a new. We can add a new requirement to the state law that we can do at the local level. That if you win an appeal and you were listed in the newspaper as being a deadbeat, that the county has to put another ad in the newspaper saying that you're not a deadbeat. Yeah.
And so run me through the appeals process. I come in, here's my appeal. You hand me the paperwork, and then I fill out.
Actually, Julie's office does that.
Oh, okay. So, see, I didn't know that. So then I hand it back to you, and you review the appeal.
We don't review it, we give it to the assessor.
Yeah, and he reviews
So
it.
we're set.
Okay, so, okay.
We get them the same day,
Okay,
typically, that they
okay.
come in.
Yes.
So who reviews the document? You?
I would be the first one to review it, yes. And then I would probably take it to my staff member who did the appraisal on the property and say, can we look into this and see if it's, I mean, typically what people do is they apply for, let's just say it's for a base year, or for
Whatever.
January 1st.
Whatever.
They would say, you know, we don't like our value, can you guys look into it? We go through the process of looking into it. If you still don't like our value, then the next step is to appeal. 90% of these are dealt with before it even comes near appeal. You know, they say the house is trashed, you guys assess it as if it were brand new or whatever, you know. So we get information from the taxpayer, we take that into consideration. If we see it can be lowered, it can be lower. Sometimes they still, oh, well, that's pretty good, blah, blah, blah. A lot of times they might still appeal. So you go through the appeals process. I would speak with my staff member who did the appraisal. We'd go decide, you know, we have good comps. We feel pretty comfortable about this. And we would go ahead and go forward with the appeal. Or sometimes we can stipulate if the taxpayer has information, again, that we didn't know or something comes up, or new comps even. If it's happening this quickly, we have 90 days beyond the sale to adjust to the comps that we have. So we'd be able to do that. But if it goes all the way to the appeal, then obviously, depending on if it's owner-occupied or not, whether the onus is on the taxpayer or the assessor, state your case, sit down, the taxpayer gets to rebut, whatever, and then it's just like going to court, really. And then the 3-person appeals board decides with either the assessor, the taxpayer, or somewhere in between. A lot of times it's in between that. We decided that something is whatever, and add them up and split the difference. I don't know. Sometimes it shows up in the middle.
Okay.
So
I think we're going to have this on another agenda, so I'm going to take some public comment.
Yeah.
And then move on if that's okay. All right, so we'll take public comment on this. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Julie. Really appreciate it. And I know you guys are eager to come up with a system that works for everybody to sign. Okay, Eileen, Spencer?
I wasn't expecting this type of dialogue, so I'm not really prepared, but I do have a few comments. The fact that the county clerk's office can't keep staff, and this is a perpetual thing. You get the personnel loss from when it's issued, and this is a perpetual problem. So instead of her complaining she doesn't have staff, the board should ask why this is an ongoing reason that she's always short-staffed. It's always the reason for things not getting done. Personally, I can't accept that. She mentioned that she hired Teresa Nagel to be on the appeals board. Is Teresa Nagel, she's not on the appeals board? She's hired to do hearings?
required to conduct the.
Clerk the hearing, she's the clerk of the hearing, right,
Okay, that's different than being an appeals board
absolutely.
person, okay. A couple of years ago, Teresa Nagel and her husband, we reported that she was being taxed on a vacant lot at Eagle Lake when in fact for 14 years there was a completed house. So it's kind of dicey to put somebody with that background on a hearings board when she herself scammed the system. And I'm trying to be polite about this. Going back to the opening remarks about Mr. Smith and Mr. Pizzullo's purchasing 423 acres through the RFP process, I do absolutely agree that it wasn't, anyway, he's right. It wasn't done on the open market. It was done through a giveaway program that this board processed. We have a sitting supervisor here that bid $25,000. That was the value he placed on this property. As inappropriate as it was, that sitting supervisor should have recused himself on any conversation on the final bid that you accepted, simply because he's had prior dealings, and we don't know what business dealings he has currently. That's not something he's going to disclose anytime soon. The problem that Pizzullo and Mr. Smith have is that on December 10th, $11,000 is due on the assessed valuation. It's obviously worth more than $500,000. He's collecting rents from the day he got paid nothing for this property. He's been collecting rent. This is income property. And he hasn't paid a dime in taxes until December 10th. So to continue talking about the poor woes and the poor Mr. Pizzullo paying $11,000 for 423 acres that has income property on it is rather insulting to the public.
Okay, I'll take it. I'd be happy to sell it to you.
I'll buy it for a quarter.
I'm here to tell you how much we spent on this
Just tell your
property.
name for the.
Larry Smith property. We're the proud owners of, it's not 400 some odd acres, it's 350 acres. I think everybody here is pretty familiar with the property. We've owned it just about a year now, and I think we've spent, probably $35,000 so far. The county was losing $100,000 a year to maintain this property. The rents that we were getting, I think the post office paid around $500. The total take on that was, I think, around $800. The heating bill was running probably $4,000 to $5,000 a month, because all the rents there included heat, water, sewer, everything, all inclusive. This is why the county was losing, their shirt on this thing. This is why they wanted to get rid of it. Over a period of 10 years, you guys probably lost $1 million, is my guess. We're right behind you because we're losing money hand over fist. It's not a good investment. Everybody seems to think that it's worth $500,000. The post office pays $2,000 a month rent to us. In order to get that $2,000, I had to put a new heating and air conditioning system in and abandon the old one. We still pay the water, the sewer. They pay their own electricity. We pay property taxes. The insurance out there is about $8,000 a year. So Eileen's, method of calculating is a little off the mark here. What I'd like to address really is, I'm not going to argue about the appeals or anything else on this tax assessment. I just want to state that this property was sold on the open market. It was an arm's length transaction. Anybody could have bought this. It was advertised all over. The first time, nobody bid on it. The second time, there were 4 bids. I think the college bid, Willis Dow, another party, and ourselves. We were the high bidder. Were we lucky getting it for that? I don't think so. You know, we spent a lot of money in there already. We are trying to improve things and make it better out there. Prop 13 says that the property tax should be approximately 1% of the selling price, which I agree with. The reason there's so many appeals everywhere is the assessor assumes that, you know, this was I don't know, a steal of some sort. It wasn't. It was a market value transaction. Like a lot of the market here in Lassen County is driven by short sales and foreclosures drive the market. You know, so that's why you've got a lot of appeals going on right now, because that is driving the market. That's why our prices are down, and it's the same problem out there. That I don't believe that I could sell that thing for $31,900 at this point. I don't know who would take it. So I would like to see the obviously we're going to appeal this with the assessor, and
what is your assessment?
$528,000.
528.
Yeah, I was assessed $150,000 on the dormitory building, which is, it housed I think around 60 rooms in there. There was a cafeteria. I don't know if everyone's been out there yet to see it. The rats have taken over. Rat feces is, you know, everywhere. The building's in complete disarray. You're probably talking $3 million to even bring that thing back even close to being operational. And we're assessed $150,000 on it. I'm here to tell you that I'd sell it to the first guy that had $10,000 on it. I'd probably give it away. So my reason for me being here is I would like to see the assessment brought back to Prop 13. That's really where we're at here, and that's why we've got this problem. So, anyway, that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you, I agree with you.
My personal opinion is I would take it and give it.
Name's Tom Trapagan. This is my first public speaking career. So, one thing real quick, I had this all in my mind of what I wanted to speak about and how I was going to do it. Of course, the first person to speak was the assessor. And I'd like to speak a little bit about that. I think this board is hearing something completely off. It's not the problem if everybody should have an appeal process in this. They should have that ability. The thing is, everything these folks assess shouldn't have to be appealed. It should be a reasonable amount of taxes that's put on these properties. I speak of this because of my own reality. I purchased a piece of property, and it was doubled on the assessment out of escrow. I bought another couple pieces of property up at Eagle Lake. They assessed it for more than what I got it from escrow. Every time you go in and talk to these assessors, or this assessor, other than giggling at me last time, he always wants to ask questions. Where did you advertise it at? Just like he spoke about Mr. Pizzulo's property. He spoke of, well, you know, he explained that it was advertised in the proper places. He advertised it enough times, and people came up with their money. There was people and bidders there, and then they bid on it. The highest bidder got it. That's market value. I think that's the way they work cattle. Same way. The cow isn't worth $10,000 if you spend $2,000 for it. So what I'm getting at is as I was thinking about how I was going to speak about my own property, I started noticing that the board started speaking about charging the public for appeal process, and she doesn't have enough people in her office to handle that. I feel the problem is there shouldn't be that many appeals. I have property that was doubled. The only thing they keep telling me is that, oh, bring in your own assessment or your own real estate appraisal. I do have that. I don't feel like I have to give it to them. Why? Why do I have to spend my time? I'm not showing up to meetings. I'm not showing up to the appeal process. I don't have time to do that. It's their job. That's why we vote for these people. That's why we ask you to come here. If I had time to come to these board meetings, I appreciate all your board time, because that's why you're here. I don't have time. I got to go out and make a living. The property at Eagle Lake, at one time, it was valued somewhere, I don't know, $3 million. Sounds good. I would love to see that again. But at this point in time, I had to put it through escrow for $380,000. That's what I purchased it for. That's after the gentleman tried to get other people to buy it, and they said no. So guess what? My wife and I decided to take a chance in Lassen County up at Eagle Lake and spend $380,000 on this. Of course, the assessor wants to come back and say it's worth $440,000. To me, they said, do an appeal. Why do I have to do an appeal? Here's the market value. I put it through escrow. I shouldn't have to spend that time doing that. My property in Ravendale. Why do I have to double the property in Ravendale? This thing had 9 mobile homes on it. Guys, talking about giving away a nice piece of property in Herlong, you couldn't pay someone to take this. But I have to appeal this. So stop the appealing. It doesn't need to be appealed. There needs to be an appeal office. But it doesn't have to get to that point. You don't have to charge people to do appeals. Why do you have to charge me for it? Get people in there and make this understood that the amount of money you assess this property is for is real. I heard the gentleman right here. He had a comeback for every one you had. Yes, he didn't advertise it correctly. Well, maybe he should have put it in a commercial magazine. This is the same kind of comments I get when I go to the assessor's office. So, although I'm not prepared to hand you all kinds of things, I can have. I found out about this meeting last night. I threw my taxes together and stuff and started putting all my minds together. But I think to the point at this particular meeting, I would like that to be heard about my issue with the assessor and the young lady that's with him. I think that's the main problem right now. I'd like to come back. I'll have more information so I can show you. But we are the public. Defend us. Anyway, I think my wife might want to speak. She's got a lot more to say.
You did a good job.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
That's what it gets me.
My house,
Oh, sorry, Andrea Hagan. Thank you. Didn't intend to speak today at all. This is really near and dear to my heart because having married this man back here, I've learned a lot about taking a chance and on opportunity. And when we bought the property at Eagle Lake, we did take a chance. It was kind of scary. I won't lie. I was terrified. I didn't want to do it. But after looking at it and listening to my convincing husband, I said, okay, we can make some sacrifices and we can try and make this work. And I had to look into HCD because that's who rules an RV park. Just like the mobile home parks that we take care of and we run and own down in Paradise, you have to go through certain processes. And the man who had bought the property didn't realize this when he took it on. And so I, of course, having house knowledge in this area because I have to deal with it on another scale, I looked into it, found where we were lacking, what we had to do, and take care of those deficiencies. And I did. And it took my time. It took our energy, and it took our money. But we understood that. We understood what we were buying at the price we were buying, and we understood what we had to do. And having said that, when I went in to discuss the beginning of the appeal process, which I came to find out is you take in, that little card that they send you and they say, we are assessing you this. We understand you bought it at this amount, but we're going to assess you at this for whatever reason. And which I also want to ask a question about. But anyway, so I go in and I say, well, I feel this is wrong. And he goes, well, how much money are you making on this property? How much income? Well, at this point, I'm not really making anything. I'm trying to get my people to collect rents. I'm actually having to buy some of these units because people don't like that the lake is down. They don't like that they have no amenities. They like that this whole concept of Stones Landing, Eagle Lake, that whole RV Mariners Resort is gone. So we have to make adjustments for that. We're losing money, just like the people in Herlong are. But we understood that taking us on. That's why we bought the property at the value we did. Anyway, he starts to ask me these questions. Now my question is, I have to pay a tax, and I pay this tax for income, and I get revenued by our state and federal agencies. They say, okay, you've made this much, Mr. and Mrs. Traphagen. We need a percentage of that. Okay. Now I have property taxes, and I have you telling me, Mr. Assessor, that even though you bought this property at this amount, I feel it's more and deemed more, so I am, under the guise of property tax, going to solicit more income tax. Because why does it matter what I make on my property? That is not your concern. Your concern is, what is the value that you bought this property at? Was it done in the manner in which Mr. Wilsick said? You know, it was listed. We were, you know, one of many people who were asked, and it was put out there, and we were the second buyers. It was a tax sale, we were the second buyers. Everyone seems to think I got a hell of a sweet deal. I did not. Maybe later I'll have a heck of a sweet deal. Sorry, my language. But anyway, having said that, why is it that we're allowing taxes to be revenued, and why am I being revenued twice for what I produce? Whether it be on my farm, whether it be with that RV, that is my business. That is my risk. Just because there's a potential to make money does not mean that you tax me on the potential. You don't tax me on this could make this, or this could do this. That's not what I bought that property for. I bought the property at this time making this, doing this. But the income part is dealt with a different agency. The property tax part is what is the value of that property, and only that. So to keep going back to, you know, what I have a question on for the assessor is the guideline. Now, on the property in Herlong, he said, well, I just felt that it wasn't put out there enough. So in his estimation, he deemed it not worthy of a fair market putting out there. What are the criteria? What do we follow? Just because at some point you have a list of things in our agency, I would think that there is a government procedure, a standard operating procedure, that when things are listed and sold and that they're done, that has to be followed. You don't get to take that standard operating procedure and then go, I don't really like that part, and I think I can turn this and twist this a little bit here, and let's add the value here, because this is my loophole. You don't get a loophole. You have a standard operating procedure. If the property is sold, it's put on the market, and this is what it's sold for, and somebody gets a heck of a deal, by golly, good for them. You should not profit on someone making a good deal. That is not the way that our government, I believe, was set up. Some people get a good deal and some people don't. That's just the way that America is. Some people make smart choices, some people make stupid choices. I've made stupid ones. I've made those stupid purchases. Holy heck have I. And I paid the price. But then there's times that I make the good deal. Or I make a good deal and I make the sacrifices to maintain it. That's my choice. That choice is being taken away from me because now I'm getting assessed more money on something because somebody doesn't want to follow the standard operating procedures of what the tax should be on that sale. So I want that definition very clear. What is the standard operating procedure for that? So when he says, oh, I don't think that it was listed enough, or I don't think this, he can think all he wants. But if the criteria is met, then why are we having an appeal about it? Why is there a discretion or a discrepancy in that amount? I think that's a fair question. I don't see why we're discussing this. And as far as, like my husband said, for me to be able to appeal something and have to pay to have that appeal, And then, Ms. Regan, you said that sometimes, you know, you give a little here in those hearings and you give a little there. Who's the winner? Because if you're giving a little here and you're giving a little there, then who doesn't have to pay the fee? Because now you've got two people who are saying, well, I kind of win and I kind of win. That's not right. So everyone's going to kind of win a little bit. So what, do we split the fee? What, you know, this is an American process. You can't get your job done, then figure out a better way to do it. I don't think I should have to pay a fee because somebody doesn't want to do their job correctly and follow the proper standard operating procedures of the scope of his job. So that's just how I feel about it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, I can say I appreciate what you're talking about, and thank you.
Anyone else would like to talk on this? And there is no action today. It was for discussion, but it will be on our. Will it be on the 9th or the 16th?
The board discussed was the issue of a fee. That's going to require, I believe, some time study to determine what that.
But or whether I think we just wanted to kind of talk about, you know, we're going to try to get a 6 month, you know.
Okay. I guess I would kind of defer to the two effective department heads when they'd like to have a future discussion about.
I won't be here on the 9th. I got a call from.
I'll be after the first one, would be better,
January.
if that's acceptable.
As far as setting up a timetable, there is some issues with preemption by state law because the state law does have requirements for the amount of time that's allotted to set up these hearings and that sort of thing. And of course, applicants are also entitled to ask for extensions. So if an applicant needs an extension of time to prepare his or her case, we certainly wouldn't want to deprive them of that process if they're trying to put together a case to present to the board.
Carol, what you had to sorry.
Carol Byers, on a lighter note, I just want to say that in 2012, I received an additional assessment on my property and called about it. It was satisfactorily resolved within just a couple of months.
Thank you.
This is one of some really interesting points. I just bought a piece of property in Lassen County for $500. I just got my tax bill and they're assessing me at $12,500. Does that mean if these people are right, I should only pay taxes on what I paid, $500? You know, that's something to think about.
That's what we're trying to.
Yeah, I mean, if it's not logical because you have to go out there and assess what other properties around were last. You know, all the property I've purchased in Lassen County has been based, the taxes have been based on the valuation of property, similar property around me. And so I might even, if this is what you people think they can do, you pay $500 for property and think you're going to pay $500, the taxes are going to be based on $500, maybe I'm going to file an appeal. You know, and property that's given to people for $1. It's about what the property is assessed for, not what you paid for it. And so that I mean, I'm going to look into this and maybe I can get my taxes based on $500.
Supervisor Chapman, then we're going to move.
Yeah, I just want to state, I think one of the things I would like to have some feedback at the next meeting, and I think the attorney's been asked several legal questions, so I think, you know, maybe she's very good at doing legal briefs or analysis or something. I think it would be helpful for the board and through the board also for the public to have maybe a clear understanding as to what the state codes require in terms of the process, the procedures. So whether it's paying the taxes and whether they, you know, get relief that way or however, there's been several questions, legal questions that have been raised today, and I'd like to see some sort of a feedback there. As far as one thing that hasn't been said, and I think we need to also focus on, is that I'm aware just from my years of service that, you know, the assessors that are elected they just don't come in and like set their own standard. And I think this goes to what Andrea was saying about the standard operating procedures. And there are some standards that are set by the State Board of Equalization that is to try to make uniform statewide. So it's not what just happens in Lassen County and how Lassen County functions, but how sales and transactions are considered have to be, there has to be some uniformity. And I know that the assessor's department is required to go through intense training with the State Board of Equalization, and in particular when it comes to utility tax